Okay, I'm here today with Charles Davis. Charles is a wildlife photographer producing award-winning fine art and a contributor to international documentaries. Welcome, Charles. What got you started in wildlife photography?
Snowboarding.
Say again?
Yeah, snowboarding.
Snowboarding. How did that
Yeah,
come about?
because when you grow up in a town like Cooma, um, you're only cool if you ski or snowboard. So I got really into that, and I think when I was 16, I was already traveling and competing around the world, and I did that religiously for nigh on a decade. Um, and towards the end of it, I got really sick of the fact I was traveling a lot, not taking any photos of the places I went. So I got a little camera. And yeah, I quickly learnt that I didn't want to take photos of snowboarding because then you're not snowboarding. So I would go down to the dump in Canada and I'd photograph bears and eagles. And I thought, oh, this is fun. This is like, it's a little bit like hunting when I was at home because I grew up on a big farm here. And, but nothing died. So that was even nicer. And then when I came home, it just got even easier because I already knew all the animals. And then I combined my skills on snow with the arty camera stuff, and it just started clicking, and people started wanting to buy photos, and they wouldn't leave me alone, and then it turned into a full-time job, and I've been here ever since.
I guess you're
Yeah,
pretty happy with that.
yeah. Oh, you never think it's going to be a possibility to be a job. Like nobody does this for a job. It just doesn't happen. That's a pipe dream, as my mum would say. Yeah. So, but I think the best things come when you don't seek them out. So, yeah, I place a very um, high value on my individuality, and I hate doing what other people do. And I come from a very arty family and a very sciencey family. You combine all that together, you get this. So yeah.
So a lot of your material is shot close to home and nearby Cooma and the Snowy Mountains. How have those places inspired you?
Well, it's a pretty inhospitable environment to a lot of people. I find it quite comforting being in a blizzard. You know, I feel very at ease, but it freaks a lot of people out, and I've taken advantage of that knowledge of the mountains and of the animals, and you know, coming from a large farm, like I can talk to other farmers, and they're quite happy for sharing information with me, and knowing that I can come onto their place and not be an issue. Um, that's been a massive asset in my community in that regard. And in another sense, I live in such a unique environment for the entire world. You know, like as Australian critters in the snow, that's very outside the box of what people think of cliche Australia. So to be able to photograph that has chiseled me out a niche. And through having a niche, I've been able to forge a career out of that. Yeah.
You've worked on several major wildlife documentaries. Can you tell us a bit more about your involvement?
Yeah. So I've worked with everyone from Nat Geo to the BBC to David Attenborough to Bear Grylls, um, Dame Edna. um, but yeah, they all stemmed from a photo. So they would see a photo. Um, and then in the industry, you have researchers who are just below producers, and they're the aspiring wildlife producers. And they get sent out to find the stories, and they'll find my photos and go, right, there's a story there. And if I've taken a photo of it, then they can film it. And then they'll get in contact, and then I'll either film because I'm on the ground, or I'll be a fixer. So I'll set everything up for a cinematographer to come in, and I'll shoot with them. Um, or lately, I've just been just handing over the information and then charging them for it, and then I don't have to take orders, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I'd rather take photos.
I've seen some of your work on sugar gliders and bats in Northern
Yeah,
Territory.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They were quite grueling. All of them are quite grueling. But I've taken that mentality from filming shoots to now my still shoots. I'll treat them the same rather than going out aimlessly to just randomly find something. I'll have set shots in mind and I'll go to a location and I will fixate on that for 1 or 2 weeks until I get it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, what have been some of your most interesting experiences photographing wildlife?
I just spent 11 days dug into the side of a sand dune at Lake Mungo um, during that heat wave, and that was sandstorms and running 9Ks a day in soft sand in Blundstone boots, so I didn't get sand in my shoes, chasing after baby emus. That's still pretty raw in my mind. Yeah. But before that, even just 2 weeks before that, I was up in Kununurra and I was hanging out of a helicopter with no doors on at 7,000 feet, spinning on its side to try and take photos. And I didn't have a camera strap, so I was trying to hold onto the camera and it was really cold. That's funny. And then a week before that, I was in Tassie for 2 months in a cold fishing shack, freezing my butt off, trying to get photos of the quolls jumping and devils in the snow. And yeah, so it's always the most recent one that's the most memorable because it's still so gritty in the back of my mind. Yeah.
I remember you telling a story about photographing wombats in the snow, and they're quite.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that story?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They're just very stubborn. Yeah, they'll just walk straight through you unless you roll out of the way at the last minute, or they'll headbutt you and then they'll bite you. Yeah.
Who knew you could come up so close?
Oh yeah, it's not getting close, it's the problem, it's getting out of the way. That's the irony of wombats.
And I guess sort of down closer to the city, they're a bit more shy.
Mm, it's not so much the proximity to people, it's more their proximity to their hole. So if you get them away from their hole, their mentality changes from retreating to standing ground because they have nowhere to retreat to. So they just, especially in the snow, in the open snow, they just, they know they're not going to outrun you if you're a predator. Obviously, they can outrun us because we're pretty useless creatures, but they will just stand their ground or they'll just go straight through you. So, yeah, it's where you find them that dictates how they're going to behave. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite animal?
I always like lyrebirds. I have gangangs that visit the garden. They're my favorite bird. They're they're pretty up there. I really like gangangs. And the wallaroos that we have on the farm here, I really like them as well. The girls are this bluey grey colour and the boys are this dark, almost black. And they're just very gentle, lovely wallabies. Yeah. Well, they're not a wallaby, wallaroo. Yeah.
And how do you think about when you're photographing in the snow? Do you have to think about the contrast and the light and the glare?
Uh, yeah, a little bit. It's all kind of secondary in my mind. I try not to go out when it's sunny in the snow. Like I won't go out in a sunny day. I'll go out when it's snowing. Generally, if it's snowing, then I'm taking photos because it just becomes a big white box and falling snow adds more to everything. Yeah. Whereas bright sunshine is just the worst. It's too harsh. It's just nasty.
Oh, well, that sounds like a way of avoiding some of those problems.
Yeah.
Do you have a couple of tips for budding photographers interested in wildlife, in the local wildlife?
Yeah. Um, learn how to hunt. That's never something they expect to hear, but you don't have to kill anything. You just need to learn how to stalk, learn what the footprints mean, learn animal behavior, what what does it mean when its ears are all pointed forward? What does it mean when it's looking straight at you? What does it mean when it's a bird and it takes a crap? That means it's going to take a flight in the next 30 seconds. You know, to learn all these things, to learn where you need to be. So the thing I always say to people when I'm on a shoot is that you can even work with seasoned cinematographers and they don't get it. And I always say, don't be where the animal is, be where the animal's going to be, and then you'll get the shot. So you need to figure out where they're going and you need to put yourself there without them knowing that you're there. And then you'll get the shot of it coming towards you rather than getting a shot of its ass.
That's a
Yeah.
real professional insight. Thank you for that.
Yeah. That's all right. It's easier said than done though.
Quite a lot of bush knowledge in there.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like all that's come from my father and my grandfather, and I'm 6th generation on this farm and 7th on the other. So yeah, it's you need to understand what you're working with or you're not going to get anything. Luck only goes so far.
I have to draw this to a close. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's great to be able to hear about your amazing work.
That's all right. You're most welcome.